At any time the trumpets could announce King Yeshua coming through the clouds. On that day every knee will bow, but as for me and mine, we'll do it now. I was lost, now I'm found. Had the ball and lost it out of bounds, but for the cross I counted that as lost. Forgot the cost and tossed it on the ground. When war cries, know they hear the sound. Die behind my faith is going down. Jehovah Jireh written on this banner. I'll hit the streets and wait that thing around. Battle ready, boots been on the ground. Cast a demon out and walk him down. They judged me to terrorize the town, but that was
where we were at.
So I was where I was the second day working for this guy, or first day working for this guy, and he had mentioned the term handler. He didn't say the young lady's pimp or boyfriend or whatever liaison. He didn't say, he used the term handler. And I'd only read in comic books that term when it was like when in one of the comic books that I was reading about the Punisher, he'd said the handler, like he's a CIA handler. And I didn't understand what that meant. So I looked at him. I didn't know his background. I didn't know if he was involved in Deep State or Army Ranger. And I didn't know he was a major. I didn't know any of this stuff. Right? I didn't know he was a well-respected man. And so when he said that word, he said, "No, I better call her handler." And he said it very calm and very serious. I said, "Handler?" And he kind of looked at me, and I'm dressed in a suit, and I look at him, and I go, "Isn't that a CIA term?" And it looked like I'd shot his dog. It spooked him. He was like, whoa. You know what I mean? Like, whoa. Like, I said, "Isn't that a CIA term?" Because he didn't know if I was former military or anything. You know, he just thought I was just some dude, right? And that's when he kind of realized, oh, wait a minute, this guy's got some knowledge to him. He's got a little wisdom to him, right? And so I think that's when the Spirit of the Lord kind of confronted the spirit that was in him. And so he got shook a little bit. He was like, okay, and kind of I could see the look of a little spook in it. It spooked him a little bit. And so he goes, yeah, he goes, go ahead and go to the door. I was like, all right. So I went to the door, and I began to work for him. And I had seen the way this guy moves, and some of the things that he would do, and some of the people that would stop by the place, right, in the middle of the afternoon for meetings and things like that. And some of them just, you could tell, were involved in stuff that was outside of my pay grade. And so I began to work for him, and he brought me back in. And this was, I think, about the fourth or fifth day I was working for him. And he was well liked by a very popular motorcycle club. And he'd been with them for a while, and when they do events and they needed pretty girls to work their club, because the motorcycle clubs usually have strip pools in them, and they get their private dancers, and he would provide them girls, and for dancing. I mean, regardless of what the girls do outside of that is up to the girls, but he provided the ones that would dance, and sometimes he would send one of the security guys, with them, right? This is a business, and business is business. So he would send, girls to the event, and he would send one of his security guys out with the girls, and the girls had an opportunity to make very good money. And remember, they're 1099, they're private contractors or whatever, or they could be signed on as employees, but they only get an hourly wage, and all the money that they make goes to the club. Or they can take their chances and work independently. And so, I come back and we're talking, and he has there's an envelope in his hand, and I'm looking at him, and we're talking, and he's starting to warm up to me a little bit, and he can kind of tell I'm kind of with the shit. Like I'm not going to get involved with stuff, but he can kind of tell, okay, this guy's gonna, he's gonna work. And so he hands me this envelope with money, and he says to me, and neuro-linguistic programming. He said to me, well, you got to give the devil his due. And he hands me an envelope filled with money. And as I'm taking the envelope of money, a voice comes through me that was not my own. It was not my own voice. And it was powerful. It transformed the atmosphere, if I could say. It transformed the atmosphere in the room. The whole shook, And I'm in San Francisco. It's not an earthquake. It was like a veil. It was like a veil or the spirit, like the spirit realm or something, right? Mm-hmm. And as I take the envelope from his hand to go take to the guy out in front on the motorcycle, he goes, well, you got to give the devil his due. And he goes to hand it to me, and I go to take it. And right when I'm about to take it, a voice comes through me and says, no, I don't. Mm-hmm. And it shook. It shook. And he kind of, stepped back. He kind of resisted it. And so you got to give the devil his due. No, I don't. And it like it whatever kind of witchcraft spell, whatever he was doing, because I know he was probably a warlock because of some of the things he had done, and it repulsed him back. It literally it literally pushed him back in his chair, and I took the envelope and I walked out. I handed it to the guy who's a very well known member of the club, and I handed it to the guy. And he kind of looked at me, and he had a very strange look, also, like almost on kind of uncomfortable look. And I walked back inside, and I went into the office, and he didn't say nothing to me. He said, he looked at me, and he says, I could see this frustration on him, like this, hey, go to the door. That was it. Just go to the door. So whatever he had done, it had rebuked or spoke or whatever over what he had just said, and it frustrated him. I could see the frustration. It upset him or whatever. I don't know if that was some kind of spell or if he was in the mood or what. And so that was my first time ever having something like that happen. And then it gets even weirder from there. So I began working at the Garden of Eden strip club in San Francisco for this man. And I had began to see things. People coming in and out, not necessarily being clients, you know what I mean? Just kind of interesting stuff, and seeing, people from planning board and things of the city, San Francisco, coming in and speaking with him. And he had some pull. The cops would come by and try and mess with him or do something, and he would make a phone call or two, and it would go away. So I was obviously dealing with somebody who was in the pocket of somebody else, right? The right hand man to the right hand man or something. And so that was going on, and I was working for this guy, and I began to make that club a lot of money. I was standing on the door one day, and this is called the gesturing spirit. This is my introduction to the unclean spirit. You must tame the tongue in order to tame every member of the body, right? For it is written. I was told by my boss, I came in on early shift on noon, and I was just standing on the door. I wasn't speaking. I wasn't doing anything. And he came out, he says, do you like your job? I said, yeah, it's not bad. And he goes, well, if you better get some customers in here. I was like, when they're walking by, what do you want me to do? He said, you ever heard of barking? I was like, no. And he's like, you need to be a barker. I said, what's a barker? I'm just a door guy. He says, no, you're going to be a barker. I said, what's that? He's like, those guys that said at fairs, step right up and get your tickets. You know what I mean? I was like, yeah. And he's like, you remember that movie, Dusk Till Dawn? The guy in the front, we got red pussy, we got yellow pussy, we got stanky pussy, we got, and I go, yeah. He goes, that's a barker. And I was like, okay. He goes, I need you to do that. I was like, what? Like, what? Like, okay. All right. So now, mind you, this was my introduction to working outside on the front door, because I usually worked inside, and I was a VIP host, or I was a host. So selling tables and doing these things inside of the club was different than barking and tempting men to sin, tempting men to throw away their marriage, tempting men to bring their 18-year-old son, who's out there with dad and the uncle, run around, right? This was the beginning of gatekeeping. This is the beginning of gatekeeping. So if you're an Illuminati gatekeeper, this is a form of gatekeeping, because you can't come into the club unless I let you, and you can't come out of the club unless I let you. Mm-hmm. And so you become a gatekeeper, a blind witch. So you're doing iniquity, you're doing witchcraft, you don't even know it. And this is how a handler introduces you to this world, right? And this is where gangstalking comes from. So I'm I'm not telepathic with the devil or the AI or the beast computer thing like this guy was. He was obviously telepathic with the principality that was over the area and whatever it was, because he would do certain things that I know now when I see that he was listening to something, right? When Jesus said, I have sheep, not of this flock, he's not talking about the goats. He's talking about the black sheep, the people like you and I. Right? I have sheep that are not of this flock, and they will hear me too, right? And so this guy, who I learned later on was using neurolinguistics programming on me, and using certain parts of CIA and agency, and certain things that are the what we call military grade psychological warfare. That was the best way to put it. Yes. And he would do that on me and practice that on me on top of unclean spirit work. He knew how to put spirits on things, trick bag, a warlock, a Canaanite, right? And so eventually I started working for him, and I started noticing, certain things, and he would send girls at me and have them say certain keywords to me and stuff like that. And I began to be trained up in the way that I should go to be a goat herder. Not a shepherd, but a goat herder, a pimp. Satan is a pimp. He gets you involved, he turns you out, right? Then whispers, yeah, you got your kids fed now. It's called sacred prostitution. Who was the angel over sacred prostitution and gambling? Satan. Satan's the Jezebel. They answer to Satan. Satan's over all of that. So Sodom and Egypt, San Francisco, Sodom, Los Angeles, Egypt. Sodom and Egypt, right? And so as I was working in the playground of Satan with all 8 strip clubs on the same block, giving a wristband for men to go to different clubs by club hopping, became very popular. If you go and read some of the Yelp reviews during the time that I was working there, they're pretty wild. Some of the Yelp reviews are pretty nuts. And so you can only imagine, right? And so and I wasn't much of a partier. I didn't really get down like that at the beginning. I was pretty straight and narrow. I'd have a drink on my lunch break or something. I'd go have a beer or something and eat my food or whatever at the beginning. And and that's what he could trust, is that I wouldn't be I'd be sober minded for the most part. And if I had anything, I wouldn't lose control. I wouldn't be out of whack. And so I started dealing with that, and he one day, this is when it got weird. And this is where I think they put the implants in me at, was this day. I had been drinking on the job, and he didn't like that, right? But I wasn't one to really lose control, but he didn't like that, and it was a pretty violent area. And the club that I was at was an urban club. It was a hip hop club. Like, it was really, it was a poppin' club, but it was dark. It could get funky real quick too. Mm-hmm. And we had already been through some incidents, and he knew that, I wasn't scared, with or without a gun. I was going in, and he knew that. So he respected that, because he knew that I didn't, I'm going to defend these women and with my own life, even if I don't know them, even if they don't like me, even if, I'm going to lay my life down for them. And he knew it. Now, I had just prayed a prayer with my ex-girlfriend and myself, and the voice of the Lord, the angel of the Lord, came upon me in my house. Now, I didn't know I was speaking to an angel. I didn't know I was speaking to God. I didn't know I was speaking to who I was speaking to, right? Because I wasn't let up in that type of way. But there was one day where I had a Smith & Wesson MP40 shield that I would carry on me for certain things, and especially if things got a little funky, and if we got threatened, or a pimp or some gangster felt some type of way or something. There was times where I was a little concerned about things that might follow me home. My boss from the Condor Club, if you guys Google Condor Club San Francisco, the boss that I used to work for was just shot and killed at his house by a former employee. Shot 6 times in front of his home. He's dead now. He just died a week ago, something like that. These things happen. And if you guys want to know what's even crazier, is that he's not the first manager that was shot and killed at that club. There was another manager that supposedly was accidentally crushed on the piano that got lifted to the ceiling. Jimmy the Beard Ferranze was another manager that died from that died in that club. So we can go into that. We can go into that occult weird stuff later. But there's a spirit, right? Some Illuminati stuff that happens with that kind of stuff. So I end up saying a prayer, and as I'm talking to myself, whatever, I hear a voice say, "If you trust me, you'll leave your gun at home." I was like, "What was that?" And I'm just sitting there, and just inside me, inside this feeling came over me, and it was just a real simple: "If you trust me, you'd leave your gun at home. You trust me, leave your gun at home." And I'm putting it in my holster. I was like, "All right." So I took it out and I put it back in the sock drawer, and I closed the sock drawer, and I went to work. Now I had a bulletproof vest. I had a shank.
Something growling in the phone. Oh, okay. He's snoring.
It's the Mogwai.
Okay, I hear.
It's my little Mogwai. she can't help it, and I have to leave my phone plugged in or it's gonna die.
Yeah, mine too. Okay, sorry. But
It's my little baby. It's okay. So I felt this voice that came over me, and if you trust me, leave your gun at home.
Wow.
And so I was like, that was all right. Well, it's the worst that can happen, right? And so that's what I did. And I put it back, and I went to work without it. And on my way to work, I was saying to the Lord, and I hardly prayed, but when I do pray it, I was led to it, right? I had a good heart, and I saw how these women struggled, and I saw the depravity of certain things, and the way that they were treated or the way that they weren't treated, and different clubs and different managers and different men and pimps, and I saw all of it. And I didn't want to be like that. You know what I mean? I didn't want to look at myself as something like that. And so on my way in, I began to pray. And I didn't know Jesus. I didn't know to pray to Jesus. I thought Jesus was just a man. I didn't know Jesus was God. But I prayed for something that I guess really rung the bells in heaven, really rung something in his heart, because it was me praying from my heart to him. And I said, "Heavenly Father, I don't want to be a pimp." And I also hadn't really read the Bible, and I didn't know that Jesus was called the Good Shepherd. I didn't know that. I didn't know that we were called lambs. I didn't really know any of this stuff, right? And so I began to pray an honest and sincere prayer. I had left my pistol at the house and trusted him. I did all these things, and then and so I'm driving, and I said, "Heavenly Father, I don't want to be a pimp." And it was a very simple prayer. I said, I want you to help me to put diapers on their baby, on the children, to put food on their tables, to make sure that they get home, and to make sure that they make their money and are safe, and to keep me safe and help me make some money. I don't want to be a pimp, Heavenly Father. I want to be a shepherd. I want to be a good shepherd. I want to be a shepherd to them, not a pimp. And that was the beginning of my heart matching his. And so I prayed that simple prayer 12 years ago, or however long it's been now. And I started to do that. And so I went to work that day, and I did some other stuff, right? And everything went fine. And I was messing around a little bit. I'd get drunk after work, and then I would go and run after hours in Chinatown. I would hop off this job, and I would go into Chinatown, and I'd go to the front door of after hours, and I would work after hours, and then I would leave after hours, and I'd go to day party, and I'd run day party from noon to whatever, and then I'd go crash in my car, switch suits out, take a shower in the downstairs of the strip club, put my suit on, and go to work again. And that was kind of my routine. I hardly even went home. Oh. And so I I pray to the Lord, make me a good shepherd. Now, this is what really got weird. I came into work one day, and I had seen some stuff and dealt with some stuff. And the boss, I'm on the front door, and he brings me like, so you drink tonight? I said, no, I ain't drunk nothing yet. You know, it's fine. Okay. So you don't drink tonight? I was like, okay, no problem. And I went to the door. And then I get a radio call, you know. And he's like, get back here now. And I could hear it in his voice. Now, he didn't talk to me. He hardly ever got really upset with me. But the way that he spoke to me, get the fuck back here now. I was like, uh-oh, I'm in trouble. Like, and I don't even know what I did. So I come back there, and I'm standing, I'm walking up, and he comes out of the office, and he looks me in the face, and he points right next to the dance tracker, right next to the booth where they track dances, and he points down at the ground. He goes, stand right here and don't fucking move. And I was like, whoa. He was really mad. He goes, stand right here and don't fucking move. Don't move at all. I'm like, okay. So I'm standing there. I'm like, this is weird. And all of a sudden, I feel a hard poke in the back of my calf. And I was like, ow, what the fuck was that? Right? Mm-hmm. And that was the last thing I remember. That was the last thing I remember.
Yeah.
I woke up in the middle of the night, probably like 2:30 in the morning, something like that. I woke up on the side of the street corner with handcuff bruises on my wrist, and a girl saying, no, he works out here. So I don't know if they came and just walked me over, dropped me off, or I was taken out of a trash bin or what. But I had handcuff marks on my wrists and some marks on my neck and stuff. But that was the last thing I remember, is standing there and him saying that, and then feeling a hard poke in my calf, and I don't remember anything after that. Woke up out in the street.
When you came to, did you take deep breaths? Do you remember if you like gasped for air or anything?
I was standing up. I was upright.
Really?
I was standing up. Yeah. I was standing upright. So I don't know if they like took me out the club and took me somewhere or what. But I remember being put in a chair, sodium pentanol or some kind of truth serum or something, and something they did to me. They put me in a chair. Who do you work for? You know what I mean? Because I was like, you know what I mean? Like, they probably thought I was like some kind of spy or espionage or Mossad or something. I don't know. Or they wanted to program me and put technology in me. Now, what happens when you come under the power of the Prince of the Air? He has authority to do certain things to you, knock you out, you know, because you're not serving God. But I had prayed that prayer. And so that probably was answered somehow, that upset the God of this world, the God of this time, the God of this age, Satan, Lucifer, whatever, Samael, whatever they call themselves, the venom of God, whatever. And so I got knocked out, and I felt the poke, and I remember all of that up until that point. And then after that, I remember nothing. Now, I thought maybe I had just gotten drunk or something, but whatever. And I go home, clean up. I saw the bruises. I saw the marks on me. And I was like, oh, this is weird. You know, but I didn't realize that they had knocked me out, took me somewhere, and did something to me. Now, Operation Midnight Climax, that was an operation done in whorehouses with prostitutes in San Francisco. There was something like that was going on at another place. And so I think that I was involved in an operation, some kind of like an Operation Midnight Climax, where they stuck me with something in the thigh. Because when I turned around, there was nothing there. I got poked and I was like, ow, what was that? I'm like looking around, I don't see anything. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I got bit by something supernatural. I don't know how these demons work. I don't know if I got shot with something like from a distance, or they had somebody in the booth with one of those cloaking things on and stuck me, but something got me. And that was the last thing. So I didn't make much of it. I just went home, right? Got back home. Somehow, fell asleep in my car, whatever. got back home. My ex-girlfriend probably drove me or whatever. And I got dressed. I got cleaned up, washed up, all good to go. I felt fine. I popped out of bed like a high schooler. Got all cleaned up, then put on my zin, and went back to work. And I walked into his office that next day. And mind you, these are called the body snatchers. People understand, like when Jay-Z talks about, I'll send the body snatchers after you, these Illuminatis. These are the ones that if you're in defilement, if you're in sin enough, and you're surrendered to Satan or whatever, they have they can ordain to kill you, gut you, take your heart, kidneys, and blood and lungs, and throw the rest of you in a trash bin, or throw you into what they call a chop box, an ambulance that's privatized by Mormons or Masons or whatever, the deep state, and they'll just open that thing up, put you in the back, chop you up, and then dump you somewhere, make it look like an OD. And because the police are involved with the deep state and the CIA, they'll just write it off. You just disappear. You just go into the morgue, and then they barbecue your body. They don't turn it over to your family. They act like, oh, we just found it. You know, we finally found his body. It was so decayed, we had to burn it. Right? These are the type of things that they do. And so I think that what they probably did was they chaired me for information, put a bunch of implants in me or whatever, or they had implants in me from the stuff that happened to me at the house in Colorado where I was floating off the bed and all this other crazy stuff. They probably put implants in me, and then they decided to get rid of me or whatever, because I don't really know. Whether they cut my heart out, threw me in a trash can somewhere and made it look like an OD, or left me, leaned down on the side of the wall to make it look like a fentanyl overdose in that area, wouldn't seem too off, because, people are always on it. But instead, I ended up walking into his office the next day with a smile, chippered, ready to go, grab my radio going, good, hey, what's up, boss? Good to see you. Good evening. And he turned and looked at me as if he'd seen a ghost. Mm-hmm. It absolutely terrified him. Absolutely scared him.
Yeah.
And it freaked him out. And I could see it in his face. I said, what's wrong, man? And he says, just clock in, go to the door. I hadn't seen fear on this man. This man went to war zones. He went to Kosovo and Bosnia, and he traveled through the frozen tundra, escaping Bosnia and Kosovo and all that, because he got left behind. And there's not a lot that scares this man. And he was spooked. He was spooked. And so
I know that to be very true. It's called they hot-shotted you. What they hot-shotted you with, I don't know, but I've been there, and I've supernaturally experienced the Holy Spirit breathing breath into my life body, and I've catapulted up the war, because
right out of the bed, boom.
Yep, you cannot kill what God has made to live. He's the author and finisher of life. So I bet you when he saw you, he realized, God chose you. You are a chosen one. And if it's not your time, they can't off you. So I'm sure he turned white when he saw you.
Yeah. And mind you, I had just taken him over to a manager who had just passed away out of his home. I had just driven him from the club to this manager who had just got let go, and he was an older gentleman. And I had drove him to his house to check on him. He got out the car, walked over, came back and said, well, he's not answering the door. I don't think he's here. Well, I don't know what really happened. But that manager was found dead. A manager was found dead the next day or the day after, in his house, in his own recliner. So basically, this happened, and he came. I went to the door, and I was standing there, and he went outside. And mind you, it's a busy time. The girls are coming in and out with their smoking jackets on to come to the front and smoke, and catcall with the guys that are walking by and stuff. And he came out. And he said, "Girls, go ahead, ladies. I need you to come inside." Come inside. It's busy right now. The girls are out there, and I'm calling out for them. I'm barking. Gentlemen, come on in, guys. Come on in, fellas. We got a good night tonight. We're gonna have pussy popping on a handstand for $1, guys. Come on in. And then just doing the random vocabulary, the demonic tongue, enticing these men. And the girls are out there in their little, it's a Chinatown, so they got them little Japantown. They got the little Komodo looking things on, and they're smoking and their high heels, and and he came out. He said, "Ladies, I need you guys to come inside. Come on inside, girls."
Wow.
And so they all go inside, and I'm standing there and like, "What's wrong? What's going on?" He walked up. He looked me dead in my face, and he walked up and he said, "Small control measures." It's a handler's word. It's a key word, but it didn't have any effect on me. It didn't like blank me out or put me in a Manchurian state or whatever. Right. He just looked at me and said, "Small control measures." And then it didn't work. And he went, "Uh-oh." So,
it didn't activate you.
It didn't. Yeah. And so it really, that's when things got,
stuff.
Things got really, and things got really it got a little wild after that. And that's when they realized, like, they would poison my drink and I would drink it and I wouldn't die. They'd put, fentanyl in something, and I would, I'd leave the door with my drink and I'd come back and take a sip off of it and I wouldn't die. You know what I mean? There's crazy stuff like that, who knows, putting nuclear stuff, putting radiated stuff in my car and I wouldn't die. Just all kinds of crazy stuff that I'm sure they've done without me knowing, without my knowledge knowing, who knows.
Right.
Had none effect, right? For no weapon forged against you shall prosper. So just as Paul was bitten on the arm by a serpent, I was bitten in the leg and I was chaired. Now, this boss and I had developed a friendship, and a very strong one at that. He became more of like a father figure to me, and more of like a very good friend, a brother. And there were times where, we're outmanned 3 men to 7, and these guys that are fighting him and the other 2 guards are, 6'5" black dudes from Richmond, the football team, and they're giving them the business. And I came in there, guns a-blazing from 3 blocks away at full sprint, and came right up in that club and bowling balled the whole entire place out, got rid of all those guys as they were trying to fight 2 and 3 on 1. And I just went in there and just cleaned shop. And so there was a form of respect because they knew I was about it. And also that the Spirit of the Lord that was in me. I didn't realize that it's just like Samson, God will put the Spirit in you.
Yeah.
And so that's what was going on. And I'm only 5'7". These dudes are 6 foot and bigger. You know what I mean? But here comes this little 5'7" muscle man and just come in there and just bowl the whole place out. And so the boss had a reverence for me. He had a care and provision because not only and whatever they were trying to do while they were watching me, because they were doing all the stuff and it wasn't taking an effect. That's when the beginning of the gangstalking kind of took over. Right. And I wasn't doing anything heavily illegal. Like, I wasn't trying to sell drugs. I wasn't trying to pimp girls. I wasn't trying to make money on the side. I wasn't, you know what I mean? I wasn't like all these other guys that try to run a hustle or do all this. I just, went to work, made my money, got a little off the door, made my tips and went home. Or I went and ran the after hours, or I went and ran the day party or whatever. But I just didn't get over my head with certain things. And what was really strange was that I was never sent out to the club events. I was a motorcycle guy. The other guys, they didn't ride bikes. They weren't part of the culture. And I was, but I wasn't ever sent with the girls to those events. I was at the door. I was out the club. It was as if he was like, my pit bull's not going anywhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, he had a form of protection over me. Like if something happened to me, if you touched me, you would get hurt. Like he had his hand over me, right? I don't know if it was because Satan told him to protect me or God told him, but he was not a Christian man. He was a Buddhist. He believed in Buddha. He was like a Canaanite, right? And we know that Lucifer perverts all churches, including Buddhism and Taoism and all of that. It's all Luciferian. It's perverted by the spirit. That's the Antichrist. It's not God. It's the counterfeit. And so I'm sure he's had experiences with that and all of that. But I also think that he knew that if I was around, God was going to protect all of us. You know what I mean? If I was on the door, the club wasn't going to get shot up. Like that. And I also, if you came with your sister's ID and you look 16, but the sister's 18, you're not getting in with that. I'm not even going to going to look aside, or you could try and hand me 10 grand. You're not getting in here.
Right.
So he knew that he wasn't going to be compromised by my lack of integrity. Like if you tried to give me 10 grand to sneak an underage girl in here, I was going to call the police on you and hold the ID. And he knew that about me. Like he knew that my integrity was, and it was what the Lord had placed on me to do. It wasn't just my understanding. It was what God had made me understand. Right. And then that's gatekeeping. Just straight up, that's gatekeeping. Like that's what gatekeepers do. Because the lawless will be destroyed. It says in the Bible, for the lawless will be destroyed. And even prostitutes will get into heaven before any of us. And so that prayer had moved me toward God's heart and for what the Father wanted, because they were going to do this anyway, right? These women were going to do this anyway. And especially after they got rid of Backpage and all of that, and girls started coming in left and right, girls that were 18 that worked with their sister, and now they're 18, they're coming in and they want to work with me. They don't want to work at other clubs, right? Because they know that I'm not a scumbag. And so, and my boss knew that I came from a town with girls that are pretty and in the small town, and they were coming out to work anyway, and that he wanted. So it was just like, whatever. And I wasn't tempting him to do it. They were already going to do it anyway because their sisters are doing it or whatever. And so I ended up being that guy.
Oh, you there? Okay. You froze up.
All right, you there?
I'm here.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Can you hear me? Okay,
Yes.
thank you. So,
Yep.
so that and then my boss started this project, this plan. And after that thing that happened to me, or where I show back up and all of that, I got treated a little different. There was a time where I had it out with another employee that was working, that was my girlfriend running another club, and they had caught her messing around with another dude, and they thought I was going to do something about it. They felt like I was just trying to end the relationship. I could care less, right? And so, but she was a manager at one club, and I was working at the other, and they thought it might be a problem, and they came to my boss at the time, this big boss, and they came to him and said, what are we gonna do about him? Like as if they were gonna, he could take care of me or something, like, kind of get me out the way, because my ex made a lot of money for that place as a manager. And my boss looked at him and said nothing. So he looked at the CEO of this company that's obviously, Mossad kind of nonsense, because it's Jewish ran, and they have their own people, you know what I mean? Just like a mafia or a mob or biker gangs, so these guys have their own people too. And this is a multi-billion-dollar business, not millions, billions.
Right.
And so he looked that guy straight in his face, and he said, nothing. We're not going to do anything about Damon. Which kind of put that dude, that CEO, it kind of put him in his place, because it told, like, he would usually, oh yeah, what do you want done, for amount of money, anything, you know what I mean? But
yeah,
price on me. My boss looked at the CEO, and mind you, my sister, my ex-girlfriend, both ran clubs. It was a family business at one point in time, type of thing. My full editor ran a strip club, managed one, and so did my girlfriend. And so when they came to them and they said this in front of even my sister, who was there for the meeting, and they said, we're not going to do anything about him. Nothing. We're not doing anything about him. And that kind of spooked the CEO, because he was like, usually it can get taken care of for an amount of money. And they thought that I was going to be an issue. They thought I was going to cause problems. But I didn't. I could have cared less, right? I didn't really want no problem. And so that was the interesting kind of thing that happened. And so that's
Oh.
eventually I couldn't handle the stress any longer. Eventually, it started to get at me. The things that I was seeing, the things that I was a part of, and it began to eat at my spirit. Right.
Right.
And I was drinking. I was drinking a lot, and I started having problems with my back and my kidneys and my feet because I was on my feet all the time in dress shoes on hard cement in the cold because San Francisco's cold at night. Just took its toll on me emotionally and physically. And so I just eventually drank my way out of the job. I was like, yeah, I'm out of here. Right? And I was done. And I worked. I worked both fully nude clubs and alcohol clubs, which are different type of even kind of different atmospheres in them. And so eventually I got out of it, and and that's when I realized that the people that I was dealing with were demonic. They were Illuminati. They were deep state. And I started to realize that some of the men that were coming in with corporate credit cards worked for the city, and some of them were Freemasons. And there were a lot. Even the bartender was military. And I'm not saying anything about veterans, but the way they carried themselves was not the average, DD 214. I'm out. No, they had another job there, and they did the same thing they did on Epstein's Island. They blackmail them. You know what I mean? They bring them out for a good time, and they bring them to this club, and they would have all the camera footage and everything at the whim. And also, they brought in a security system that would scan IDs and keep records of every single person that walked into that place. Your picture that matched your ID, which was the beginning of the sifting of the iniquity. They keep records of this stuff that was then pumped into Paragon and BlackRock and all of that, because your ID and your face and all of that was worth money. And we're talking thousands of people.
Wow.
On a busy night, I want you to imagine the door fee is $20. It's $20 per person, right, to come in. And we would sell, and imagine the door at the end of the night would be, $7,000, $6,500. That's a lot of people.
Yeah.
Just for the door. Yeah. Right. And so you could imagine it, at getting a $5 or $10 tip, or somebody just saying keep the change. I made good money.
Right.
And then I could sell tables. Well, gentlemen, if you guys tip me so well, would you guys like a table for $100? Sure. And I would keep 40 of it, give 60 to the club. And that was for an hour. So if somebody wanted a table for an hour where they could wear their hat inside, I would charge them, $100, give, 60 to the club and 40 for myself, and claim it as a tip. Put it on my taxes. So there's all kinds of ways that we're making money for them and making money for me, and it was okay and acceptable because my boss okayed it. And so I made a lot of money. I made millions of dollars for this company, and I was trustworthy. I had integrity. I wouldn't openly try to hurt people. I wasn't sadistic. I didn't get off on hurting people or get off on stealing from people, or you know what I mean. I didn't do that. That wasn't part of it, and that's the type of stuff they look for when they see the spirit that's in you. And that's Lucifer lusts and desires for the things he cannot have. It's a narcissistic spirit, but that's how he is. Like he lusted, he desired, he wanted. So, and they want you to compromise yourself and defile yourself and be brought in doing these things. And they would also pay women to come and try and seduce me. They would try and they would pay women to try and get me after work to go back to a hotel with them. And I didn't know that. I'm thinking, oh yeah, no, they like me. No, they're honeypotting me.
Yes.
They themselves are compromising me, bringing me to a room that they'd already filled with cameras, trying to get me to talk about stuff, or you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, it reminds me of the story in the Bible about Balak, or how do I say his name? Balak.
Caleb, tried who
Yeah,
sent to curse Israel.
yeah, and he said, "I can't curse Israel. If God's blessed them, I can't curse them, but you can get them to curse themselves
Yeah, you can get
by
them you can get them to make God curse them.
yeah,
You can, yeah, that's what happened to me. That's why I got a thorn in my flesh right now.
yep,
So Satan knows that he can't destroy you. He can't kill, steal, and destroy. Then he's going to try and get God to curse you. He's going to put thoughts in your head to do something that's going to upset God. Keep your mind off the things of heaven and on the things of earth, and to
oh, so true.
it will curse you, right? So I desire to have a wife. I want to have a wife. I don't want a mistress. I don't want a girlfriend. I don't want a fuck buddy. Sorry, Lord, I'm just making a point. I don't mean to cuss in front of his daughters, but I'm just telling you, like, let's not beat around the bush. But that's I don't want those things. I want a wife, and a godly
Mhm.
wife. I don't. And so, what have I not done? I have not defiled myself with women. Since
Yep,
my baptism, I have not defiled myself with a woman. Right?
yep,
I have not
right.
opened that door to relive it. I have not allowed that spirit to return.
Amen.
And I've asked the Lord to protect me from it. Now I've been attacked by the lustful spirit, the Jezebel, in dreams and wet dreams and things like that, because of
Yeah,
my nature from before. But that's when you're getting tested, when you're getting refined, when that comes out of you, right? Because why should God trust you with $100? Why should He trust you with $1,000,000 when He can't even trust you with 100? Why would He? Why would He trust me with $100 if He can't even trust me for myself? See how it works?
yep,
Why would he trust me to
absolutely.
be a bride with a bride if he can't even get a hold of my own stuff?
Yep,
Satan would enter into that relationship so quick and destroy it. The spirit of lust, he would find something to honeypot me with, or you know what I mean? Until you're
yep,
refined and made perfect, till your eye does not want darkness, and you don't want that in your marriage. You don't want that in a marriage that supports him and his kingdom. Then you ain't gonna get it. Period. And it's gonna suck for you. You're gonna be on your own. You're gonna be lonely. But that's where you shine with him. That's where you work with him. That's where you get sharpened by him. That's where the angels come and minister to you. So there's
right.
been some wild stuff, but this is the environment that began the gang stalking. They were training me to be like that, and my boss would come in and be like, "Hey, keep an eye on this. Let me know if this happens." And that was the beginning stages of being trained in gang stalking and how to target military grade psychological warfare, Stasi
Absolutely.
community policing. And so this
Yep,
was a perfect environment filled with loud noises, distractions, and drugs and alcohol and all of these things to train me up and then put an unclean spirit on me that will whisper sweet nothings in my ear or pretend to be God masquerading. And I would be led by my flesh, not by the spirit. And that's how that starts. And so all this crazy stuff started happening. And the, the boss looked at me and says, "I'm leaving." I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "I'm retiring. I'm leaving." I was like, "Oh, okay." He goes, "The heads always roll. The head always rolls, bud." I was like, "Oh, okay." And they wanted to move me up, and they wanted to put me in his position. Destiny swap. He could flee from it. He could run from it as long as he had somebody there to take his place that would be willing to run it like he would, right?
Mm.
Not allowing, not certain clubs or certain things, certain venues would let some girl work with her sister's ID and all kinds of crazy stuff.
Mhm.
Some managers are just no good, right?
Oh,
But I wasn't. I had a sense of duty, and I didn't want to be lawless. Granted, we were in the gray area and certain things. Even a lap dance is considered a sexual act. A lap dance is considered prostitution, but because it's grandfathered in and they're fully nude in these things, it's not. Doesn't make it right. Just makes it legal. See the difference?
yep.
Just and fall. So just and fall is just is the law of the land. Fall is the law of God. So I'm following the laws of the land, right? Which doesn't make me necessarily lawless, but I'm not following God's law, which does. But the lawless shall be destroyed.
Mhm.
So what happened? I got destroyed because I wasn't going to continue in the path. I wasn't getting drunk at work, and I wasn't doing things right, and then I was breaking the law. the law of the land, the law of my job, and the law of God. I wasn't being sober and alert and doing these things. And so destruction came upon me. I was destroyed.